Going live.
All right, let's call the meeting to order for our park board for the first one of 2022. And I will take roll call. We have Kim Walton.
Here.
Ryan Schecker.
Here.
Sam Dean.
Here.
Myself, Heather Philly, present. We have our city administrator, Steve Roth, and our community development director, Steve Myers. And then our only park board member who is absent is Brian Steele, and he did notify me that he would not be able to make tonight due to family obligations. So if I could ask everybody to rise and remove their hats for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next on our agenda is approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, which were included in our park board packets. It was our meeting from Monday, November 15th of 2021. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
I have a motion by Ryan. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a second by Kim. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next we have public participation.
So the folks that are going to make a presentation, they're later on the agenda. Is there anyone that wanted to speak for any other reason? There you have it.
All right, seeing there's no public participation, we will move on. All right, next we will talk about some new business. First on the agenda is Chief Mealy's. Sure, yes, please. Thank you.
Some time ago, we made a request of the Parks Board to take into consideration reduction in the hours to earlier in the evening, and also a consideration for restricting some alcohol use in the parks. I know you had a chance to discuss it, and I'm here tonight to answer any questions and continue that discussion if needed.
Okay. One thing I had a question on is regards to the changing of the time. You had made a request to maybe make it 10 p.m. as opposed to midnight. Just out of curiosity, have we seen an increase in crime levels in any of the parks after 10 p.m. from what we have been seeing previously?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are seeing an increase of activity in the parks after dark. There are people that are using the facilities for things that they're not intended for. So read a study of the 100 largest cities' park hours, and the vast majority of them are sunset or half hour after sunset, dark until daylight. It's generally because of quite a few reasons. We want to reduce vandalism, we want to reduce assaults and disturbances, and these hours can make a big difference on that. In parks, generally our parks don't have lights, so without lights there isn't any visibility, so it becomes just basically a safety issue as well as like a policing issue. So that's basically where that comes from. Originally the discussion amongst me and several others was that we would shoot for to dark, and then the people thought, well, in the summer, dark, 10 o'clock. So generally, we don't see much useful activity in the parks at all after dark, and the activity that we do see has to be policed. So if we reduce those hours, I don't think we'll have much disruption to useful activity in the park. I would like to see a nice family-centered, activity-based park setting rather than just a hangout spot for people to drink and not really use the intended purpose of the park for whatever amenities are, playgrounds and fields and things like that. Those things aren't typically enjoyed after dark.
Okay.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that. As far as the family parts, right now Blackburn Park, Liberty Field, or Blackburn Park and
Jensen Point are both limited to dark.
Do close, yes.
Right.
And Liberty Field, I think, is part of that. Is that one closes at a certain
It's
time?
not included in the
Not
ordinance.
included, no.
I have a copy of the ordinance here.
So my question is, there was a request a while back sometime last year about keeping the gates open at Liberty Field to be able to allow for policing. Obviously, City Park doesn't have gates to be able to close to keep people out as well. And the back of the park, in both cases, are wide open. Obviously the back of Liberty Field opens to the river, so it's easy access. Back of City Park opens to the back of Hawthorne and the industrial park, that kind of stuff. What would be the plan if we close at 10 o'clock as you request? How does that, does that mean you're going to have increased patrols to the parks at that point and shoot people out, or what would be the intent?
Right, we would do it through normal patrols. Let me be clear that this request for the reduction of hours would be with the exception of permits. People have permits for an event at a park or on a pavilion or in a pavilion or something like that. Clearly, this would not apply. Permits would take precedent over this. So, yes, it'd be done through signage, strict enforcement, neighborhood awareness information, just the normal channels to put this information out, and then we would reinforce it. But generally, people will follow the rule if it's well posted and well known. And then it wouldn't necessarily have to result always in a summons. There's going to be discretion by officers whether or not to write tickets. Just this week, I've been up to Blackburn Park probably half a dozen times at night myself, and I've caught someone up there every single time. And we even have that on camera. So we have the dispatchers watching the cameras, alerting us when people get up there half-time. Sometimes you get up there, they're already gone. And those signs could be better placed as well at Blackburn, and I think it would keep almost everybody out. Right now, I don't know if you know it, the signs are on the gates, and when you leave the gates open, you can't see the signs. The signs really need to be placed on the road just before the entrance where they're visible all the time, whether the gates are open or closed, and then you have a lot more. Generally, the people will comply. There's a compliance factor to all this, which we don't really have an issue with. So,
Yeah, and I think probably the city park is the one of the most usage,
right.
probably more so than any of the others. With Blackburn, we do have the flexibility to close the gates for that, and then Liberty Field, we could close the gates for that too, which would also hopefully help entice people not to be violating those gates after
Right,
the
and
time.
there's a lot of parts to City Park, the community park, that are not, near the road. They're not commonly accessible, and those are the kind of things. There's nothing going on, back there in the back. I go through there all the time. I live nearby there, so I'm always running through there, walking through there, riding my bike through there. So I see a lot of those back trails that lead over to Hawthorne and back to the industrial complex. So yes, those can be patrolled. There's actually that silo back there. We don't need people. If the thing is, when we catch people back there, we want to have the teeth to be able to do something about it. And currently, we don't have the teeth. It's not to say we wouldn't use discretion. It's not to say that people wouldn't be just warned and things like that. But when we run into a problem, we have no teeth the way the ordinance is written.
Makes sense.
Because that was my next question: is how is it different from what we're doing right now? But now you pretty well answered that one for me.
Right.
So.
We can have people in the bathroom at Liberty Field taking a bath at 11:30 at night, and there's nothing we can really do about it. It's not illegal for them to be there, and all this runs on the heels of other things that I would like to propose. And I've had a long conversation with Chris about this, about a lot of these things, about SEPTED in the parks and things like that. Some of the basic things that we can do to try to reduce an environment of crime. You talk about the criminal triangle. It's, you need a victim, you need a perpetrator, and you need a location. Well, if we can reduce victims and we can reduce the location that they can commit a crime, it's better. The other thing, and I want to mention just briefly as we talk about this kind of criminal triangle, I want to talk about the alcohol because, some time ago before I even took this job, there was an incident where a young lady felt unsafe in the park and had been approached and things like that. And the basic use of the park should be that everyone that goes to that park feels comfortable. And if you're allowing people to hang out and drink, that's an intimidating factor to people who are just they're having a picnic, and maybe people are being loud and things like that. So both of these rules are designed to take an overall look at how the park is used and what people are there for and things like that, and create an environment where families and people that are there for the right reasons, aren't intimidated. They don't stay away, because when good people don't stay away, bad people don't get a foothold. And we don't get a problem with kids hanging out in a pavilion late at night and then nobody wants to go there and walk their dog or something like that in the evening. But people want to maybe go there and walk their dog before they put it to, they go to bed in the evening. Well, that's the compromise at 10 o'clock. But we don't want kids starting to hang out there right at dark, and then somebody doesn't feel comfortable walking their dog and things like that. So that's kind of where I come from when I propose these changes.
And one of the things that we've got, though, in Pacific here is there's not a lot for our youth to actually be doing, and 10 o'clock is awfully early for some of them. I know my kids are still awake at that point. Now, granted, they may be on their video games rather than in the park, but I would hate to see us limit opportunities for youth to actually do something, even if at least in the park, they're more or less contained versus, potential other issues elsewhere.
And if there are structured activities or legitimate things for them to do in the park after dark, but there isn't lighting and things like that. So you can't say, well, they're going to go in the playground and play, or they're going to play basketball or something. There isn't lighting there for that. So I think I did read one thing where someone said there was lighting at the tennis courts, but I haven't
There
actually.
used to be lighting at the tennis courts.
Is it still operable?
Whether everything is functional,
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it on.
but I was noticing all the fixtures are there, all the bulbs are there just today. So,
Right. So,
And there's probably a question of how to people generally know how to turn it on or not. So
right. And I would, this is just a proposal. I think it can be tweaked and we can figure things out. If we, I read another article about parks in Phoenix. They have 100 days of temperatures over 100 degrees. So they have to kind of adjust to that. So you get in the middle of summer and middle of July and it's hot and people want to play tennis in the evening after it's dark. I don't see a problem with that. If we have working lights and people can get in there and do that, that's great. All we have to do is make a little exception for that, or write the ordinance in a way that it allows for these kind of conditions.
Currently with our permits for pavilions and rentals around alcohol consumption, how difficult is it? I'm trying to remember back to the permit. Is there a place on there where they can notate that they will have alcohol? Like if somebody's having somebody's adult birthday party, or, they may have some beer in a cooler. What are our current
I don't recall any
guidelines?
a checkbox.
There isn't.
I didn't think so.
Not to my recollection either.
Okay.
because we don't have a regulation
Against it,
alcohol in
but
the
that'd be
park.
something if we make, the alcohol consumption illegal in the city parks, then we would want to make sure that our permits are updated in our forms to be able for that to be checkmarked and, ultimately approved, because that would be an exception to an ordinance if that goes into
And in all
place.
honesty,
It was an automatic exception. It was
Okay,
alcohol is prohibited except by permits. And that meant if you had a permit to use something in the park, you were allowed to have alcohol.
okay, there was not a separate permit needed for that.
No, you just,
Okay.
if you had a permit for a pavilion for the evening, and the permit said it was good till midnight, then you could have alcohol at that pavilion. And
Okay.
we would, not modeling it off of everything like that, because I want to make some exceptions to that too, but we could certainly make that like with the way we write it. Sure. So,
And on the alcohol side, Jensen's point, I'm 100% in agreement that we don't need alcohol there. That stairs are treacherous as it is. We don't need anybody stumbling down. Blackburn Park, kind of the same way.
Right.
Liberty Field is all about sports complex. Honestly, that doesn't need to have it there either.
but if someone has a permit for tournaments. and
That's a different story,
then-
yes,
Then they
absolutely.
would be clearly in it.
But in
But you're
general.
right. And I've even, doing this research, I even saw some cities where they allowed alcohol in certain areas. Like you couldn't drink in the parking lot, but you could have alcohol in pavilions, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of, especially in the community park, where we have the one pavilion, the small one, that's not by permit, it's literally first come, first served.
Right there at the entrance.
Yes, right there at the entrance. So that could be something that is written in potentially as an exception of if you're in that pavilion, because that way if somebody just, wants to meet up with a friend for a lunch hour or something, they could potentially sit there and not have to worry about filling out a permit, because it'd be a spontaneous type of meeting where that could be allowed, so.
And I know the third request was the locks on the doors. I don't think anybody disagreed with that. The automatic
No,
locks.
yeah,
Yeah.
all these things are designed to reduce vandalism, reduce noise complaints, to limit antisocial behavior and misuse of the park. So I wouldn't say that all people who drink in the park are causing disturbances and assaults, but I would say that all assaults and disturbances generally involve alcohol in a park.
Has there been what's been the numbers that, in
I
our
didn't
parks?
look it up because we don't classify them by parks, and it would, under last year's report writing system, it would have been difficult to make those kind of searches.
Okay.
Moving forward, we'll be able to do this a lot more efficiently, to look up these crimes and categorize things and do searches and things like that.
Because that's one thing I would like to know. If we're talking about one or two, yeah, that's one or two too many. But in
Right.
comparison to the annual usage of the park, that's,
And I kind of look at this
trying to
as,
figure out the
if-
best way of doing it.
I look at this as if we know there's a potential for an issue and we have a chance to correct it, we probably ought to go ahead and take that, not wait and say, well, we'll wait till something happens and then we'll do something about it. I think we know there's a potential for it. If we decide it's not that big of an adjustment for the community and it's going to improve everything overall and for the majority of the people, then that's where my proposal comes from. So, and to answer your question about knowing these stats, on January the 1st, the police department changed to a different report management system. So in the future, that report management system that we have now, starting in 2022, will be much more user-friendly, and we'll be able to do all those searches and do all these things moving forward, get crime rates and things like that. So, big improvement there.
Wonderful.
Good deal.
Great. Does anybody else have any questions for Chief Mealy on this?
No.
Right?
Good.
Thank you very much for addressing. All right, this is definitely something we will continue to look more into, look at our ordinance, exactly how it's written today, and gather thoughts on it, and if any changes we want to have made,
Yep.
we'll discuss at a future park board
I
meeting.
don't see any issues with any park besides City Park. That's one we need to look at the most. It's
Right.
the most used. It's the one that has the most pavilions. It's the one that has the most events at, things like that. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because most things that are at Liberty Field are by permit, any big events kind of thing, so the permit then would help cover the alcohol consumption piece of it, so. I guess I do have a question. Do we, sorry, do we have any idea on cost for time locks for the bathrooms? Any estimate whatsoever, or too early?
We did order, we ordered the first set for Liberty Field. They have not been put in just yet. Is that correct?
We are just weeks away from the first one being installed at the bathrooms at Liberty Field.
Okay,
And I don't recall the exact cost. I know that we had hoped to have them in place by now, but there's been a little bit of delay on it. We wanted to try those out first, make sure, just see how they worked. It's not a huge number, but it's also not, insignificant either.
Right.
So,
right, sounds good. Alrighty, any other discussion about the police department's request? All right, moving on, next item on the agenda, we have our skateboard park presentation. If I can get all those that are wanting to speak to step forward, please.
And speak into the mic directly so everybody can hear you. State your name and address for the record.
Hello. All right, good evening, members of the board, members of the community. My name is Jared Couture, and I'm here with my good friends Rob Glocheski and also John Feltz to present our idea of creating a skate park here in Pacific in honor of our friend Jeff White. So, get the...
Oh, you ready?
Please.
You ready for it? Okay.
Yes, please. All righty. All right, guys. So first off, I want to tell you guys just my experience with Jeffrey. Pardon me. The main reason I'm here is to represent my friend Jeff White, who was a great friend of mine when we were in high school and middle school. We had a skateboard team together. It was really cool. And Jeffrey was the youngest of us, but he was honestly the best. And he was someone who was so incredible at what he did at such a young age that I was always felt honored that he would even allow me to skateboard with him. He was really like a professional little kid. It was incredible. And as you guys probably know, he died at the age of 21 years old in Afghanistan. And I think he had left us way too young. And here's actually a couple photographs of him. We don't have much material anymore because we didn't have cell phones back then. But like, for example, in that far left photo, he's probably 8 or 9 feet in the air over that large SUV. And Jeff was doing stuff like this all the time. It was really amazing. So we know that the Pacific Post Office, of course, was renamed in Jeff's honor, which we think is amazing, but we also know it's moving. And as friends of Jeffrey, we thought that there's no better way to commemorate him than to commemorate him with an actual skate park, because that's who he was, that's what he loved. And so the idea is to make a memorial for Jeffrey, and I think this is a way that he can create a legacy and can kind of live on in the community. Because if this skate park stands for 60 plus years, this allows Jeffrey to also live here for a full life and to positively affect the community members and kids. You know, I think that he would just be so happy about this, and that, you know, his joy could live on through other people. So that's mainly why I'm here today. But we've also done a lot of community research. For example, recently, we also know this had been a master plan write-in suggestion for skate parks already, but we also did a recent poll. 741 people in a very short time with very little promotion in the community said they wanted a skate park here in Pacific. It's over 10% of the population. Also, many people told us that they've actually wanted a skate park here for 20 years. And I thought about that, and I know that's true, because 20 years ago, I was 13 years old at Pacific Middle School, and my parents, we didn't have a skate park. Sometimes we would get to drive to St. Louis downtown. It was very rare. It was a very big deal for us. And if that could be here all the time, I can only imagine how happy those kids would be. So to be a part of something like this is very exciting for us. And I want to read a quote from the master plan that says, "Parks and Recreation's master plans are community-driven, meaning that public input is a critical component at every step of the planning process. This ensures that the plan is tailored to the needs and desires of the unique community." So I want to introduce you a little bit to some of the people in our community. This picture does not do the justice because so many more people were there this day, but we recently threw together an event to get a skate park here in Pacific. There's actually already a skateboard committee, and Rob and John and I are on it, plus others, and this has already been around for a long time. There's a Pacific page. So we did an event. It was a competition. We had trophies for people. It was really cool. A lot of people came out. There was a good 50 people there. They're just not in that photo. But if we can, I'd like to play that video now, and I'll just let you guys hear what some of these people said. We did a lot of interviews. These are only maybe a third of the actual interviews, but you can get a quick clip from real community members saying what they think.
Keep talking.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll let you guys hear it, but it was really, truly, the thing is, we've noticed a massive excitement and positive energy around this altogether, which is very exciting for us, from Steve, from the community. Many people, we've actually already had businesses contact us to give us free things, donating, one skate shop donating skateboards and all kinds of stuff just to raise awareness about this. We had a professional skateboarder come to that event. It was a big deal. And yeah, so I just want to say, in terms of the community, we've been having a lot of actual support from members. Let's check out what they have to say.
Ready. Now, where's my volume?
You can start it over and hit that volume or whatever.
Yeah, I gotta find my volume. Hang on a minute.
Yeah, no worries. I heard something. I think there's an audio button on top too. What about, oh yeah, that one. Increase volume. It's not coming
It's
up.
all the way up 105.
It's okay if it doesn't work.
All right, sorry for technical difficulties.
No worries. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. But I'll tell you guys their main concerns, because I do, of course, know what these guys said. Also, I posted this video and a longer video on my Facebook page if anyone who wants to see the actual full-length video. This is a shortened version. But basically, the main concern was there's a lot of people who skateboard here. They really want a place to go. They feel like there's not a place, and the only places that are available, well, they're not actually available. The businesses that have good skateboarding spots, of course, will kick everyone out. It's not good for the business. They're afraid of liability and many other things. It's not good for the skateboarders. They don't want to be in that environment anyway. The parents don't want the kids skating on the streets. So they were all saying, basically, if we had a place to go, this would be eliminated. There wouldn't be anybody getting kicked out of places. It would just make things more calm, and the people would go and skate together. So we can go back to the PowerPoint whenever it's
Yeah, I'm trying.
up. That's the main stuff, though, that these guys were all saying. They also, again, were saying over 20 years. We know that many people are saying that they really want this. So, yeah, just giving them a spot would eliminate a lot of problems. I know the church window has been broken multiple times. I know that, there's certain things. I used to work in different places here, and we'd have to kick people out constantly. So I remember that. So, yeah. All right, we're almost ready for the next part. And the next part, as Steve is getting pulled up, I'll just start it off. It's about demographics. We wanted to give you guys a little bit of actual demographics. Basically, skateboarding has been allowed in the Olympics now, as you guys most likely know, which has created a massive increase in desire around the world. Actually, it's been over 20% increase in like 2 years from the amount of skaters on the globe, which is pretty amazing. And right now, 45% of the skateboarding community is 12 to 17 years old. However, that number in just 2006 was 71%. So that means it's been a massive increase in the ages that are doing it. It's not just kids, but for the kids in the middle school and high school here, this would be a perfect place for them. But also, there's been a massive increase in female skateboarders as well. Just in the past year alone, it's been a 24% increase. It's been very large. There's a 35% increase of skating in general in the past 2 years, which is also very big. There's actually skateboarding in high schools right now, in PE classes, since the Olympics. This is pretty amazing. And there's also 3 times more things happening in cities just like this right now, with municipalities allowing skateboarding and things like that. So it's a big, forgot I had the slide already. So all of what I just said is right here. And yeah, that's the main stuff. So right now, just imagine we could have, what the people were saying, the community is, if we had a place, just imagine how they could thrive. There's actually some really great people. If there was a skate park here when Jeff was alive and there was the Olympics, he could have been in the Olympics for all we know. You know what I mean? Just imagine we could have an actual Olympian coming out of Pacific just by adding this as well, which could be cool. And I know there's probably fears of like people destroying things in this, but I promise you, if you just give the skateboarders a place, that will be even better. And it's becoming more of a family sport now. People who are older are wanting to skate for exercise. I try to go skateboard 3 times a week just for cardio, and that's it. So other fathers like me are going to be there with their kids, and right now at the skate parks, it's like families too. So with that said, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you all. I'm going to go ahead and invite up my friend John Feltz. I'll leave this here for you, John.
Thank you, Jared. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. My name is John Feltz. Next, I'd like to talk to you about a location for this skate park. As Jared mentioned, we got some community engagement, and that led towards a meeting here at City Hall on December 3rd, where we sat down with Mr. Steve Myers to discuss all of the park space and where we could potentially locate a skate park in Pacific. There's a lot of consideration as to where we could put a park. Waiting for this next slide to queue up here. A lot of consideration for where we could put a park. We thought about access for community residents. We thought about access for fire and emergency services. We thought about businesses in the local area and what actual space could represent skateboarding the best. What we came down to is this northwest corner of Liberty Field Park here. We read in the city's master plan, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, about an idea to build a road that connects East Congress Street to the parking lot there. And we feel that it's a brilliant idea for increasing the flow of traffic in that area, and that a skate park in that location would not impede the plans to build that road. Next, I'd like to talk to you about a contractor. We had a lot of offers, a lot of suggestions, a lot of feedback for who can actually build a skate park here. And the committee and I ultimately decided that this company, the American Ramp Company, was the best way to go. In their 20-year experience, they've been in over 40 countries, and they've completed over 3,000 projects, making them the decisively optimal choice for a skate park. Here's some examples of what they've done. The American Ramp Company, they're located in Joplin, Missouri. They say, Pacific's right in our backyard. We spoke to a representative there, Mr. Evan Moss, who's very excited to work with us. They love to go and build big, beautiful skate parks in big cities around the world, but more than anything, they love to support community-driven grassroots projects like ours, especially projects that have such a powerful meaning for the community and the people that it serves. We talked to the American Ramp Company and we expressed to them some of our concerns regarding environmental concerns for the location that we have. And they assured us that their techniques for civil engineering and construction can stand the test of time for such things as flooding, which we all know is common in Pacific, but also wear and tear over the years. A skate park is an outdoor facility. With that, I'd like to bring up a point from the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The Parks Master Plan helps the city to identify needed capital improvement projects. Strategically identifying and prioritizing projects allows the city to make the best use of available funds in order to meet recreational goals. In order to get a design in place with the American Ramp Company, we have to bring up a fund of $7,500. We're here tonight to ask the City of Pacific to grant us that initial $7,500 so that we can hire the American Ramp Company to come in and design a skate park for us. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The estimated cost for a skate park could range between $300,000 and $500,000. And this seems like a staggering amount right off the bat. We have a complex plan that involves crowdfunding, fundraising events, donations and donations in kind, and most importantly, grant funding. We've partnered with a local non-for-profit organization, a 501c3 called the Magi Foundation. And that allows our small committee and our project to have a not-for-profit status and makes us eligible for grant money. It also makes us eligible for donors to be able to reach out for tax breaks in their donations. We feel strongly that we can raise the money that we need and reach out for the grants that we need to make this project happen. With your support, I believe we can do this. Next, I'd like to bring forward Rob Glocheski, who's going to talk a little bit more about skate park design. Thank you.
Alrighty, last couple things I want to go over real quick are just to show what kind of makes us unique, why this would be a Midwest attraction and how much thought we put into it. So this shows the average time people are willing to drive to get to a skate park. Locally, it's 40 minutes, and traveling, it's about 9 hours, but it could be up to cross country depending on how well the park is made. So this is just to kind of show what we have near us and the functionality and what we're kind of going for. So we have Optimist in Burnsville Park. Optimist is in Washington, Missouri. They're pretty good parks, but they're kind of hard to learn every trick on. So we want to make a little safer environment and have it easy for kids to learn every trick on. So we have some lighting possibilities that could help us stand out, and that'd be the glow-in-the-dark paint, some LED lighting. We thought of some ways we might be able to cut cost as far as putting all the lights on one stem. It'd be nice to have a dimmer, some type of ambient lighting, but the important part would be some after-hours motion sensor lighting and a security camera if there were lights. So the last thing here is one of our skateboard obstacles is shaped exactly like a sundial. So we will be the first skate park with a pole jam sundial. It'll also tell what time it is anywhere in the world. All right, this is just kind of to show what's possible and how we've been dreaming things could go. And these are just a couple design concepts. So that's pretty much it. And I just want to reiterate.
Quick question, is the one on the left here, is that kind of the design when you guys are talking about the?
Yeah, that's just a concept
Concept, okay.
that we have as far as if it were to be circle like we wanted it to be, to make it a little bit more unique, but we're willing to whatever the best use of that space is. So, but yeah, basically we're here tonight to ask for permission to use centrally located spot in Pacific to build. The money fundraising part will be up to us and everything, but if the city's able to put in the $7,500 for design and cost estimate as far as building materials, that would be great. Either way, we can start raising funds tonight if we get a yes. So thanks for your time either way. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys very much. That was a very informative and great presentation.
If I could make the recommendation that Mr. Roth would address the funding mechanism and how that actually works, to come up with $7,500, Steve, what would they need to do?
That prevents me from having to ask how we're going to
Any
get
spending,
7,500.
any park spending goes to the park board first. Park board makes a recommendation, ultimately the Board of Aldermen acts on it. So, I mean, it's really that simple. Yes.
So I guess my biggest question, at least at the moment, based on the budget that we still have, or that we're still in, that's $7,500. Where exactly would that come from out of our park board budget?
I can tell you that our park balance currently is around 170,000. We do have a truck that was ordered almost a year ago that still has not been delivered.
Has it been paid for, though? Or
No,
not yet?
no, it
Okay.
has not been paid for. What else? Later in the meeting, we're going to talk about sand volleyball courts. So there certainly are some items. We also have a need, I believe, my opinion at least, to address our dog park. That's something I want to hit on later. So there's a lot of areas that we can spend money. I think we all know that. It's a job of the park board first to prioritize, and obviously ultimately up to the Board of Aldermen.
Okay.
How is that $7,500, if that were to be approved, how is that going to be managed then? Is that, because I don't think the city can just write a check to somebody else, correct? Would they have to submit something to be reimbursed, or how does that work?
I mean, this is the very first I've heard of it, so I don't know, to answer your question. I mean, we would, if we were going to commit some level of funding to have an actual engineering design contract, I think we would then hold the contract, of course. We would negotiate the contract, understand what the deliverables would be, so forth. Ultimately, that, of course, would then ultimately go to the Board of Aldermen. Kind of depends on what your comfort level is. I mean, we could bring, if we do want to move forward with this, we could bring the contract back to you at a later meeting before it goes to the board. That'd be one way to approach it. But yeah, I mean, we would have to, just like any other consultant contract that we negotiate, put it on paper and then bring it up to the boards for consideration.
And I would think with it being proposed to be on city property, the contract would definitely have to be between the city and the contractor.
Yeah.
Sure, yes.
For that reason alone. Which brings me to the question, because I'm trying to envision I know we saw the picture for the northwest section of Liberty Field. Is that in the same proximity, if I'm getting my directions right, and I might not be, as the pond?
Yes.
It is just northwest of the pond.
Okay, so the road will be basically split between the pond, you'll have the pond, you would have the road and the skate park, or do you have pond, skate park, road?
You'd have pond, skateboard, or skate park, road, most likely.
Okay, so then that brings my question, how close, and again, I know this is all kind of hypothetical proposed, how close would the pond be to the skate park, and what kind of caution would be taken around the skate park? Because obviously, if it's open and the pond is open as well, how close are they to each other? Is there
Well,
the
none-
risk of anybody
Yeah, none of this.
wandering into the pond, that kind of thing
None of
is where
this
I'm.
location plan discussion is definitive.
Right,
It's all subject to the size of the footprint of the skateboard park they end up going with, what's affordable, that type of thing. These are just preliminary discussions to say ideally, where would you like it? And that's what they've come up with.
Okay.
So the exact position, it's, I think, too early to be able to tell.
okay.
But all those safety features would be taken into consideration, of course, with the contract in this firm.
At least I know I was in the general vicinity of where I thought you guys were talking about.
Right. Well, the city just picked up a couple of properties on that north side as well, correct?
They're
Or
working
was
on
that-
it.
Is that, okay.
Yeah. It's not official yet, I don't
Yeah.
think.
I know it's in discussions. How's that?
Yeah.
Just I have a couple of questions, mostly for Mr. Roth. First one is, how is any kind of insurance or, how is the city protected from injury on something like this?
That's exactly what I was going to.
I actually asked Steve Myers to contact our insurer so he can address that.
Which I
Okay.
did, and so Jeff Arp is the name of our insurance provider representative.
He's still there.
In Myrma. He's a great guy.
He's still there.
And so I started the conversation with, what do you think about skateboard parks? And he says, no problem.
Okay.
That was right out of the gate. And then he went on to define, there's a lot of communities that are, that have skateboard parks that they insure without difficulty. He did, however, tell me that there are some communities that have decided to take them out. And it's not, it was just an underused kind of thing. So
It wasn't because of claims or liability or any incidents or anything like that. It was
he
just
does
lack
not
of
have a
use.
conflict at all with covering us if we installed one.
Okay. And I have a
It does,
question.
and just for clarity, and again, I didn't talk to him, but you did. Obviously, they would insure us if it was built to certain standards, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
They would have to have a fence around the perimeter. And there really wasn't a whole lot of hurdles that he said needed to be jumped.
And I would assume that it probably has, certain hour accessibilities, things to that nature as well, which would just help, kind of to what Chief Melius was saying earlier. If something's open at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, there's the potential of other situations arising where if there was, and that might be something that Myrma would highly encourage that there be.
Yeah, they would give us a checklist of things to make sure it covers signage. Proper signage was another thing
Right.
that he'd mentioned. And
Skate at your own risk, that
rules-
kind of thing to,
The rules of the skateboard park. And that was pretty much it. But, one of the things that I think the guys had talked about in the past was the close proximity to Hoffman's Drive-In, to Christopher's Corner, the Brew House, downtown restaurants. These folks getting on their skateboards and riding on down and enjoying a lunch or dinner. It's really nice, close proximity to bringing some activity for youth to downtown businesses.
I've got a quick question for the gentleman who presented. About how many of these kind of skate parks are there in the United States, or do you have an approximate number?
a lot.
Somewhere around 100,000, but
Okay.
may be way off. I think you're number for sure.
I'm just going to guess about 20 in Missouri or less.
Okay, that was my next question, and is how many in this area, but, okay.
The closest one is about 25 minutes from Pacific.
That's the one in Washington?
Charleston and Burnsville are almost the same distance. So
Okay.
these are the closest ones. However, for anyone who is young and doesn't have a car, there's no way they're going to get there.
Right.
Which is the biggest part of the demographic. However, of course, people will still be driving in from all over, like Rob was saying. Skateboarders love to travel and try new parks. They go on big skate.
Let me put a timeout real quick. Jared, if you would take the mic. Just remember, we have an online audience,
Right.
and if everybody would speak into your mics, it would be helpful.
So to reiterate, I'm just guessing there's 20 skate parks in Missouri. You can look if anyone has a cell phone to be 100%. But any other questions?
Well, and I think one thing, like Mr. Myers, you were saying about the kids then going to like Hoffman and,
We also know another part of this, it says Smart Park right at the top. We were thinking maybe we could eventually as well have our own skate shop / food place / place. Maybe they teach skate lessons, something like this, to give jobs to community members. And also, we're certain that it will drive business in Pacific. We also looked at how much money, I forgot to mention this in there, how much money a city would expand without out-of-towners coming and just supporting the local community. They're going to be hungry. They will definitely go to the ice cream place and the brew house and all this stuff.
well, that's what I was thinking too, for those that are coming from out of town, obviously, like you guys mentioned, for those in the community that can't drive, well, they can, walk there, skate there, whatever's allowed on the roads and sidewalks. But then for those that are coming from out of town, especially parents, if they, their kids can be at the skate park and they could go partake in one of our restaurants or do some shopping downtown, whatever it may be, while, kind of get that break from the parent kid, or especially if people are driving across country, we have lots of people that follow Route 66, families. And so if they've had enough of each other in a car for several hours and need that adult, child time break, that would be a great.
We think it would
thing as well.
benefit, the economy in Pacific would benefit. I don't know how much, but certainly it would benefit.
Yeah, and it could, just even add more to our growth of the downtown community as well. Because like you said, bringing a skate shop or something to that nature would, continue to grow, so.
Yeah. I do know that in the Parks report, our Parks Master Plan, it talked about how the changing demographics in the United States, the parks do tend to bring in to help a city more than some other things that it has been more of a focus in the past. So I think this is a great project, just trying to look at the funding part of it.
Yeah, absolutely, because we keep hearing the same, comment over, our kids don't have anything to do, and this would 100% give kids. It's also giving them the exercise that a lot of kids don't get nowadays due to the computers and all that.
That was a lot of what the community said. I forgot to mention is that right there, get people off the iPads and actually out in the community doing something with their friends, being healthy. There's also a really amazing mentality that comes to skateboarding. I know it might sound like a strange thing, but it's very creative. It's very individual. You have to overcome your fears. It's terrifying. You have to balance. There's a lot of life lessons that come from the person talking to themselves in their head to get them to have the courage to do what they're going to do. That translate in positive ways outside of skateboarding as well.
Yeah, it's not only a physical, good for the physical aspects, it's also good, like you said, for the mental. It gives kids and adults even the confidence that they may not have, especially if they've achieved something that they never thought they could achieve. It does help them both physically and mentally. So, I think it's a great idea.
There's 62 skate parks in Missouri, and that was in 2021. If you go to parkchaser.com, it gives you the addresses, the location, and a brief description of every single one. And there's also a breakdown that you can do for each state. So it would get us on a big platform.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
I would also like to call attention to the fact that Mr. Jeffrey White Sr. is present here this evening. If you haven't met him yet, Jeff, you want to stand up? Okay, now you sit back down. So the guys are very serious about making this a
Yes.
memorial.
Yes, and by the way, before we even attempted to speak with anyone, we talked to Jeff White Sr. and his family, and I contacted his brother, his family. Thank you, Savannah, for helping me out, and as well, to make sure that they would be okay with this. But really, it's about a memorial for me, at least. So.
And personally, I've supported Jeff and Junior through the 5Ks that they have every year, except for last year, for several years now. So I, again, from a personal standpoint, am very much on board with making this a memorial skate park in Jeff's honor.
Thank you.
I think the entire community would be
Absolutely.
proud to do it.
Yes.
It's a hometown hero. There's, because we want to make him seen, just like the other mural in the town as you're going through. Part of this is also to have, we already have the artist to create a mural of Jeff as well at the skate park. That would be really cool to
That would
paint
be
that
nice.
That would be nice, definitely.
The main thing we need is to get started is the $7,500, and if that's possible to help us out, of course, we can get started immediately, because this is going to be a long-term process. So,
One more thing.
Yeah.
You guys are worried about possible security, vandalism. I think with what these guys are doing, with it being a military-themed skate park, I've seen people come together in this town for military, and I think, as far as vandalism and stuff goes, I don't think we have to worry about that here. I think the community would help police any vandalism, because I've seen firsthand how this community comes together when we lose
Yeah.
one of our own, so, anyway, that's it.
I think also with the location, that it
Yep.
does give good visibility on drive-bys and things like that too, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do we need a motion to make a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen?
We do, and I would say that motion would be around, one, getting all the information gathered as to what next steps would be to enter into an agreement or find the funding for that $7,500 and enter into the agreement with the construction company that they have recommended to at least get as much information as possible, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah.
So, are you making that motion?
Yeah, I would make that motion.
All right, so we have a motion by Sam to make the recommendation to the Board of Aldermen to assist us in finding the funding for the $7,500 to be able to enter into a contract with American Ramp Company to pursue the construction of a skate park in
I
the
second
city.
that.
And then we have a second by Kim Walton. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, guys.
That's hurdle number one. All right.
Your presentation was excellent, by the way.
Yes. A lot of time and effort definitely spent into gathering all the information. We as a board appreciate that. That obviously, as you could tell, we had a lot less questions than we probably would have had you just come up and ask us right off the bat, so job well done. All right, moving on to our next item of new business. If you guys would like to stick around, you feel free, but do not feel obligated.
We're going to talk about beach sand volleyball, which is another thing that kind of goes along with what they've been saying. For years, there's been a desire to replace our beach sand volleyball courts, and we are closer now than we've ever been.
Can I pause
ma'am.
you for just a moment? If one of you gentlemen would send me the video that you were planning to share this evening, I will then pass it on to the rest of our board so they can watch it as well.
And please do the same with me, because I don't know what happened to the audio track on this one.
No worries.
Okay, great.
We can also forward the information to our representative with the American Ramp Company, Mr. Evan Moss. He'll be really excited to speak with anybody who has any questions.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I
I so like this.
See if there's any available funding or any, since it's a military thing.
Oh, that maybe, we'll talk, yeah, they,
Are we gonna come back to some of this stuff?
yeah, we can talk about that, okay. All right, going on with this beach sand volleyball.
Okay, you ready?
Yep. No, don't even.
Oh, this is so
All
much
right.
fun.
I'm like, I am the least athletic person probably sitting at this dais.
So we're closer now than we've ever been to having Asheville Beach Sand Volleyball upgrade of our facility. And I had talked with Chris Fowler, our park superintendent, quite a while back about this project. and am excited to say that we're making great strides. So I want to pass out just a couple of these, if you guys would share, and you would share.
We can do that.
So you've got a sheet in your packet that was, let me get back to Mike. You have a sheet in your packet that showed you the equipment that Chris has picked out. Amongst several different options he looked at, this is the highest quality for the least amount of cost that he could find. So if you look at the sheet I just presented to you, it shows all the total costs without the labor, because the labor is something that we would be doing in-house. All right, so we'll talk more about George here in just a little bit, but Chris now has a helper, all right, and the two of them can do this work. So all of the parts and pieces and the power sand competition packages, which is, of course, the most expensive thing, is the equipment. For this grade of equipment, the total ends up being, with freight, $10,944.33. We have in this year budgeted $10,000 towards this upgrade. So what we need is another $944.33, and we're there. So what this gives us is not one, but two beach sand volleyball courts that are side by side, one towards the west, one towards the east, at the same location they were before. So if you know where the basketball court is, down by the swimming pool and pavilion, it's just north of the basketball court that's there. Was the remnants of where beach sand used to be played. So when it used to be played, it was just river sand. This time, we're going to have, and you know, the guys talked about the Olympians that might come from skateboarding, having a skateboard park facility here that they could learn and become great. Well, we have two Olympians that in the past years, Misty May Trenner and Carrie Walsh, gold medal Olympians. And they voted U.S. Silica's beach sand product as the best in the world for courts in places like colleges, universities, hotels. So having that in their back pocket, U.S. Silica has offered to donate all of the beach sand that we need, which is a tremendous asset. And I think something that people are going to want to come from maybe miles around to want to play on. So I think that's pretty cool. So I'm asking you if you would come up with $944.33 so we can make that upgrade.
So real quick question, when it says the power sand competition packages, do we know exactly what that consists of? Because honestly, when I thought of sand, I thought that was the sand.
No,
This right here.
what it is
So that is,
it's the boundary.
never mind.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Yeah,
I
it's
printed it
was
off.
in our packet.
There you
It
go.
was, and I didn't look at the title
It's okay, Heather.
closely.
It's okay.
All right,
It's a Monday.
now you got it.
Got it. Okay, no need to explain. I now understand it.
I'm thinking it's
It's,
this.
yeah, it's the everything.
Yeah, and those are the ones that have the gear cranks on the side. You can get a lot of tension on those. And they're professional level nets and equipment, the poles.
Are these mats like waterproof exterior
Yes.
mats? And then do they get taken down like in the wintertime?
You would take them down in the wintertime.
And do we have a place to store all of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Good questions.
And so you're asking for how much? The 944?
We need another $944.33.
Well, that goes back to the question from a minute ago. What, for our funding status, if almost $1,000 is going to fit in that budget right now. But
I'll make a motion to make the recommendation to the Board of Aldermen that we try and find $944.33.
Just round it up to 1,000.
Thousand.
I'll second that.
Sand volleyball package. I think it would be a great addition to our town.
All right, so we have a motion to make the recommendation to the Board of Aldermen to find $1,000 to complete the sand volleyball courts in the community park near their existing location. We have a first and a second. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And the timing of this, we believe that we'll be able to get this all ready for use in spring
Wow,
of this year.
Wonderful.
that's really nice.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Let me see, we have Cub Scouts outside the door.
Oh, we do. I don't,
I didn't notice.
I don't think they're coming in here,
They
though.
did a tour
Yeah.
downstairs.
Oh, they did tour downstairs, okay. All righty, so next we have donated park bench.
Another handout.
Also included in our,
No, this one's.
Steve, just, and I'm sorry, I know, what I will need for the next Board of Alderman meeting is a purchase order for this equipment in the exact amount, and then it goes to the board in that fashion.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so the next agenda item was a park bench that was donated, and the approved location, the family has changed. Okay, so you all saw this, and the first location was going to be next to the bridge, which I thought was a great spot too. But they have decided that they wanted to move it to a different spot. You see, the second location that's marked on this map is not where it goes. I'm sorry, but I did a little typo there. Slide it down to the sidewalk. Okay, so the point should be next to the sidewalk. And there is a bench on the right side. There is not a bench on the left side. So the left of the sidewalk or south of the sidewalk would be the right location.
Are we talking about
Yes,
right in here, or?
right in there,
Okay. Yeah, because I know there's a bench over here,
yes.
so.
Okay.
So we just need your authorization to move that location.
Is there a flat enough spot there? Okay.
I looked at this afternoon.
I knew there was a bit of a hillside there in that, as you get close to that corner, so.
And this is an existing bench that we have in our possession right now, so it's ready to go.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the second location as proposed.
I'll make a second.
All right, I have a first by Ryan and a second by Sam to install the park bench at the location that's been proposed. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is an additional park bench that's been donated.
Oh. I'm loving this. Show and tell today.
I know, right? It's great.
And Steve, these are the benches that we've been using, or something similar, correct?
Is that this one?
The benches that we've been using for what?
Well, there's a couple of benches already in City Park and stuff that are blue. One of them's blue anyway, but yeah, I mean,
Back your hand out.
generally speaking, they're the
This is the
same.
one that is going to be purchased.
Okay, yeah, and it's all the same or very similar to what's already there.
Correct.
Is it this color too?
Red. Yeah, that's what the family picked out. So this one, you see option A, option B, Blackburn Park. That's because those are the two locations that the family, first off, they wanted it to be at Blackburn Park to where there was a view. These are the two spots that remain that have a view. Okay, and if you look on the next page, you see option A is located between two existing benches. So there'd be three there. And if that's a view a little more centered on the lower part of that picture. Okay, so that's one option. The other option faces the other direction. And it doesn't have quite the view because those scrub trees are standing there in the way. So what I'd like to recommend is if you would prefer option B, that we would remove those scrub trees that's shown on the second lower picture there along that fence. That's our city property. So we could take those out and enhance that view tremendously, fairly easily. That's what I would recommend.
Did the family have a preference of A over B or B over A?
They do not.
Okay.
I would personally choose option B over option A, mainly because I wouldn't want, is it gonna be like the current two benches that are there, or is it's this new bench, right?
New bench.
I would not look good, in my opinion, in between two different style benches that are already in unison,
You got two different
sitting right
styles
there.
and two different colors.
I would never want to see that happen.
Well, I think in addition to, if this is a bench especially for the family, that they want to go and just
Have their own spot.
have their own kind of spot commemorating on their memories of their loved one. There's already two other benches on option A, and it's not
I
as
feel like it would be
isolated.
crowded almost.
Correct,
With benches.
yes.
You know.
Where option
The
B.
side has nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Plus, I think it really transforms the other side of the park. I mean, it's not really
It does.
usable space right now, and I think everyone always goes up there and thinks the same thing. What if those trees were cleared? This seems like a no-brainer to me.
Well, it opens it up, and there is a beautiful
Right.
right,
escape that nobody's appreciating at this point.
Is that overlooking the picture for option B, the outlook? Is that overlooking the sand pits or is that overlooking town?
That's the two.
town.
It overlooks
okay.
town, but
East
it
side.
shows that bluff on
Right.
the left. You really see that bluff line well.
I like it.
It's the east view. You can probably see the river too in the wintertime.
Maybe,
With
Not
some
too
of
sure
those
about
trees
that.
gone, you might, but,
You can see where it goes,
yeah.
yeah.
where it follows, the
Right.
path of trees that are missing.
You'll have a great view of flooding if it gets that high again.
Yeah, you don't want to see the river
No.
there.
Yeah.
Route
We prefer
66.
not to, right. So,
But yes, you would overlook Route 66 just in time for the centennial.
Yes, yes, you would.
and that would also be, again, somewhere people could go up. Obviously Jensen Point, but the Centennial is gonna get probably more foot traffic than, but this would potentially too, because it's another view over that Route 66 as well. So,
Well, the picture opportunities would be awesome.
uh-huh,
A lot of people don't have pictures on that side, so,
Right.
yeah,
And
it's
in
all
fall-
facing, it's all going the other way.
I mean, that's what most people take pictures, they want their pictures with the background, and you're gonna have this whole new scenery.
Right.
So,
And in fall time, overlooking the valley.
gorgeous. I'm getting chills.
So it sounds like option B is,
Everybody's choice.
everybody's choice.
Okay, so.
Thank you,
yeah.
family, thank
What
the family
motion
for
do
giving
we
us that
need?
option.
That was easy.
All right, so do we have a motion to install this park bench, the option B location? Is that what you're
And
going-
clear brush.
And clear
Bingo.
brush.
And
Thank
clear
you.
brush.
Yes.
It's a package deal, Steve.
All right, so,
Well, I'll make that motion, Heather.
all right, so we have a motion from Sam to install the park bench in option B and clear the brush.
I second that.
And we have a second by Kim.
Wonderful.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the imagery really did it, actually. Like,
Yes. Great picture taking.
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
All right. Lastly, under new business is ordinance 3304, repealing bylaws and reducing the number of members of the park board.
Mr. Roth?
Oh, it's just information only. The ordinance has been approved. Obviously, we now have 5 members. And, I mean, I think most of y'all understand the ordinance, so just kind of info only.
Okay. I do have one question, and it's, I don't expect an answer this evening. If somebody could potentially look in and just double check for me. So on the bottom of our bylaws, it shows that they were adopted on February 23rd, 1995. My question is, how were they adopted? Were they adopted as the park board at that time adopted them? And if that happened, then was an ordinance actually put in place adopting them back then? Because if it was, then I believe our bylaws are still intact, so to speak, because according to the ordinance that was passed, It indicates that all bylaws are repealed unless otherwise approved by Board of Aldermen in a subsequent ordinance. So my curiosity is there a subsequent ordinance from 1995? Especially since our bylaws have also been revised in 2002, 2005, and 2010. So if somebody could do a little homework for me?
Yes. No, we will. That's it's a great point. I did. It's been a little while ago. I looked. The last time the subject of bylaws came up, I looked back, I believe, into the 2010 timeframe, and I didn't see a reference to that. I have not looked back to 95.
Okay.
So yeah, yes, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question. How does our operating authority / management change having the bylaws repealed?
The bylaws are only in force if they're adopted by the Board of Aldermen. So there's a question over whether they're even in force. If they were adopted, I think that'd be a question for the city attorney to determine what exactly that means. As far as where we stand now, the park board authorities are whatever's in the ordinance, and then, of course, there's a recommending body for really anything that happens within the park. The park board hears, the skate park, of course, is a great example, makes a recommendation up to the board, and then the board takes final action.
And in our current ordinance, there is a section in regards to things such as like the skate park do have to come in front of the park board, or should come in front of the park board before going directly to the Board of Aldermen. So that is a separate section that's not in our bylaws, but is actually in the city ordinance regarding the park board.
Okay.
So as well as some other stipulations are there. So by repealing the bylaws, it has not repealed those sections of the ordinance, if I'm correct in that statement.
Yes.
Okay.
There was an ordinance that was passed not too long ago, probably 3 years ago.
Correct.
Right, yes. And essentially, the way we've enforced that is if it's in the budget, then if there's an opportunity to bring it to the park board, of course, we do that. But if not, let's just say, for example, there was an expense that was below my threshold. I can spend up to $5,000, okay? Locks in the bathrooms. And it was budgeted for. Then we're not necessarily going to bring that through the park board.
Correct.
The items tonight obviously are not budgeted. We, the city, can't take any action without the park board recommendation and then the board approval.
So we
So I guess
do-
where I'm lost really is just what changes? Is it just a formality?
So if the bylaws are not enforceable, let's just say, are not in effect, then really, right now, we have, our meeting times, our meeting days, the frequency. So that would not be a standard, like we would not necessarily have to meet the first Monday of
Gotcha.
every month at 6:30 PM. In regards to the duties of the officers, that's listed in the bylaws. So that would potentially not have to, obviously, you're going to have a president or a chairman of a board, that's kind of a standard operating procedure. But do you need a vice president? Do we need a secretary and a treasurer? Those are the kinds of, I'm going to say, administrative things that are currently outlined in the bylaws
Gotcha.
that may or may not be enforceable
Okay.
or in effect. I was just kind of looking through them.
Right. When will E-code be updated?
It's updated regularly. Kim Barfield manages that. I know she submits ordinances very regularly. Are you asking about the most recent ordinance, when that'll be codified?
Yes, because there are glaring inconsistencies here I want to point out, and I attempted to do this when I was speaking before the board on December 21st. Excuse me. Wheezing all of a sudden. This section specifically deals with Section 140.030, which is the composition, and it's changed from 9 to 5. But there's no mention whatsoever of the term, which still calls for 9. There's some other issues that definitely should have been addressed in this ordinance that was passed, that I think that there's a lot of potential issues here with how it's currently laid out. So without everything else being corrected, I also have to question where this ordinance goes.
It will go to E-code for codification. I mean, city attorney drafted the ordinance. I mean, I don't have it in front of me. I'm not ready to speak about those items. If there are any issues, the codifier will reconcile those typically, or note them within the codification that there is a conflict. Ordinance XYZ repealed this, however, this remains, So, yes, again, if there's some sort of conflict, how that gets reconciled, I'm not sure. If it requires, obviously if it requires modification, amendment to the ordinance, that can be done.
Okay. I would like to see clarity in that, because I think I've been asked about it outside of the meetings here, about how different things are being cleaned up. And based on what this ordinance states, it's created a lot of ambiguity. So.
I was just looking at the code that you were talking about.
You want it?
No, I've got it right here. I just found it. So yeah, the term about the holding officers, okay. So yeah, so that may be something that then comes back, so we'll have to definitely keep an eye on that.
Right.
As
Now,
well.
this did not repeal the bylaws and rules and regulations portion of section 140.090 as well. So in theory, what has been in the past bylaws of the park board could become rules of the park board. And would that still require approval by the Board of Aldermen if it's strictly for our board use?
Not quite sure I understand the question.
So there's things in our, what were our bylaws, let's assume for a second that they have been fully repealed without any additional conflict. It talks about attendance, duties, things like that, quorum, it's basically how we govern our meetings. So assuming that there's no conflict with city law, city code, ordinance, whatever the case may be, if we were to amend these and make them the rules of the committee, would that need to go before the Board of Aldermen for approval?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's a question, if I'm understanding you correctly, based on section 140.090 of our current ordinance, that particular section allows us to have bylaws, rules, and regulations, and it doesn't specify that they need to go in front of the Board of Aldermen for approval. And that piece, along with the previous section you had mentioned, 140.040, were not repealed by the
Or
ordinance.
modified.
Or modified by the ordinance that was passed on December 21st. So I guess the question then to the city attorney really is going to be the other sections of our current ordinance for the park board. We're assuming they still remain intact. The term one obviously will need to be adjusted because it's referencing 9 members not
5.
5, but the sections like the bylaws, are those still active sections, I guess,
so
for lack of a better term?
Well, I
So
have the code. So you're saying, is 140.090 still in effect?
Correct.
Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah, and again, I don't have the ordinance, the 3304, but, I mean, my understanding is that ordinance would then strike that section, 140.090, since it's in conflict.
Which, and this could be clarification, again, from the city attorney, because as mentioned in the ordinance, sections 1 and 2 of the ordinance specify the specific section of the existing ordinances, where section 3 does not specify, it uses the word all. So that's where I guess to the city attorney, it's kind of open to interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, it's, obviously, I'm not the guy
Right.
to really,
see
make
what-
judgments, but.
I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just
So-
a lot of ambiguity that, before our rules, regulations were, the ordinances were relatively clear. No major issues there. Now that's just as muddy as the Mississippi. So,
It's kind of that may or must, may we do something, must we do something, that whole interpretation, so.
Yeah, I mean, I can just give you my perspective, kind of absent some of the language questions. If the park board wants to adopt rules and regulations relating to officers and meeting conduct and so on and so forth, yes, you can do that. It just needs to go up to the board for approval. I mean, I think, that's kind of the simple way to think of it. I see, I mean, I haven't, we haven't really had this conversation, but within the section 140, sure, there are some things that, could be in conflict with that existing ordinance or chapter 230, which provides the park regulations. So I understand, I mean, if there needs to be items that need to be cleaned up, that's fine. But again, if there's some desire on the part of the park board to, just as I said earlier, adopt a new set of bylaws, rules, and regulations, that's fine. Go through that process. We did it last year with, when we rehabbed.
Started at least, yeah.
The regulations in general.
Yeah, because this, doesn't say we can't have them, it just says they have to be subsequently approved by ordinance. So it is something we can still definitely look to, because as we all know, our current ones are the ones that have been in effect.
pretty sorry.
Yes, definitely need to be updated and all of that. So that's something we can still look to do and then bring it to the Board of Aldermen for subsequent approval.
Right, and I know that we're going to be getting to the pool here in just a second, but if there's a property tax that goes into effect to be able to afford a new pool, then ordinance 3304 is in conflict with Missouri statutes anyway. So that will have to be repealed, and we're back to where we're at essentially 2 months ago. So that's why, again, I question the need for this whole ordinance to begin with, and spoke my mind on it, so.
All right, any other discussion on this? All right, moving on to old business, municipal pool planning update.
Okay, where are we at? I guess it was after the park board meeting, maybe in December, I forget how.
Would have been November.
Was
the
it
last
November?
meeting we
Okay,
had.
sorry. We did reach out to the school district, and we told them that we were planning to move forward with a pool planning effort, and we had requested any feedback on the idea of what I think we could refer to as a community center. We really didn't get any specific feedback. I'm not sure if it's been discussed at the school board level or not. We are now almost into February. And so we are getting close, I think, to a decision. We did, in fact, negotiate a contract with Navigate for what we would call kind of a basic planning effort. We've been through this with Westport. You all, anyone who was on the board for some time know that. Navigate for a very reasonable fee, could kind of compile all that information, refresh the cost estimates, and then essentially come back to the board with kind of what you might call the final plan. Here's where we're at. And then the board could certainly take it from there. If we're going to try to have a pool that is either renovated or improved that would be ready for the 2023 year, we really do need to get going. So, I'm not sure where y'all are at. There was some discussion at the Board of Aldermen level. I think that discussion resulted in the idea of at least trying to evaluate this big community center idea. Without the school as a partner, you never say never, but it would be very difficult for us. It just doesn't seem like it's really within our financial capacity. A new pool, I think, would be, of course, it would require going to the voters and, asking for some level of tax increase. So, kind of where we're at, we need some feedback from you all. What's next? Where do we go from here?
If we were to do just a new pool, and obviously, like I said, it would go to the voters, would we be able to put it in front of the voters come August? Or would it be-
Yes, I talked to Navigate last week, and I asked the project manager for the Red Cedar project, who would also work on the pool project. Katie Holt's her name. I said, tell me about timing. And she said yes, that she felt like we would have enough time. I didn't say plenty of time, but enough to get there. But if we delay much further, we're going to miss that. Yes.
I think you're asking for a lot to try and get it for the 2023 calendar year. At this point, only because, we're talking about not only the fundraising part of it, but the design, the demo, the construction, so on and so forth. Demo would have to start middle of summer or, shortly afterwards to have any hope of having it ready for 23.
You're speaking for an entire recplex, or are you talking just a?
Just
any kind of
anything
thing?
more than a minor facelift.
Okay.
You're talking about,
Right.
it's going to take, more than a month to build.
The only way, and you're right, and even if we went to the voters in August and the voters approved, even if we were lined up and started essentially demoing in the old pool as early as August, it would be tight. To be open by May.
It might have to be a later season.
Yeah.
Opening kind of
and this
thing.
is, again, this is based on past discussions,
Right.
not recent. But in the past, that was a time frame that was doable. Now, that assumes everything kind of fits into place. So, I still kind of go on that assumption. Can you be open by May of 2023? Probably. Maybe you slip into June. Having said that, Navigate is working on a different project for us. Construction costs are, have just turned upside down. Don't know how that might impact pools, but yeah, it would be, let's just face it, it would be tough to be open with a new facility by spring of 2023.
So that's my biggest concern is that, we have to not only ramp up efforts to have community approval, which obviously Navigate will help with that, get the community approval on funding mechanism of whatever sort it may be, and then finalize plans, finalize construction, things like that. I think 2023 should be, the current pool's been there 40 years as in its current state. We don't want to rush something just to have it. I think we want to do it right. And I think the community would approve that too. That, just to rush something to have a new pool, okay, great. 20 years from now, we got problems. Or it's not what the community has been wanting. I think that if we're going to do it, we take the time to do it right. Given that, I don't see, I think that a 2024 opening would be much more realistic. Plus, that also gives us time that, we can, work within the community, not only to, the funding part aside, but to, get an idea of what the community really wants. We pretty well know that the splash pad is a desire.
Right.
That has been spoken of for 10, 12, 15 years. Zero entry was desired. Obviously, new bathhouses, new pump houses, and all that stuff. But what else? If we're going to do it, and we're going to have some kind of funding mechanism in place, then, what is it the community wants that we can provide for the budget that we're given?
And in addition to that, I think too, we can only hope that maybe construction costs come down.
It's also lead times.
It's
If anybody's
lead-
involved in construction and stuff right now,
Correct.
lead times on.
Lead time, supplies, it's the whole big picture, and hopefully, come 2023, things will be much better. It also gives us a little bit more time to have some more discussion with the school. As well. I know this would not be, I shouldn't say I know, I would assume that this would not be a number one topic on their list right now with everything else that they're having to deal with. But if we do look to, potentially put something in front of the voters, maybe November of this year as opposed to August, that gives us a little bit more time to get more feedback from Navigate, get some better ideas, and if we can do that, depending on what the voters say come November, then we can start in 2023 to be able to open in 2024.
Right.
And hopefully have a better lead time on a project, better idea on all of that.
Right. And the other thing we got to deal with is the fact that, come April, we have municipal election. We will have a new board of aldermen, flat, for sure. The mayoral election is included in there, and that will mean changes here at City Hall, no matter who wins. So, I think that we got to keep that in mind too, that, if we move forward today, what's to say that, middle of April, something significant changes, and now we either got to start over or make significant changes to our plans. So I think we're better off, rolling this back just a hair and like I said, do it right.
Because every indication that we have right now at this moment, we should be able to open our pool currently come this season.
Yes.
Without any major improvements that need to be done. Obviously, it might need a few things here and there, but nothing significant. So we could still have a pool season.
Yeah, let me spend just a bit of time on that. And Steve Myers, he can fill in as needed. We do need to upgrade the electrical panel. We have a good quote from a local electrician that we can act on. We haven't done that, but we intend to do that. As far as the contract with Midwest Pool, we did have some difficulties last year. It was not a very good season. We expressed some of our concerns. We had a good conversation, and it's been a couple weeks ago now, and I think we can move forward with them. I think they understand our point of view, but we got to do better. We just have to do better. So, yes, we can open the pool, but we are better situated now. Steve is immediate point of contact in City Hall, as well as Chris Fowler is on the ground. I mean, we really are better situated, and so we should have a better season this year.
And that's the other thing about postponing to 2024 is that gives us the time to deal with Midwest on what the new pool contract and requirements and everything else that has to go with it. You know,
Yeah.
have that evaluated.
As well as, and it also gives us time to bid out other, if
If
we
it's
so
necessary,
choose. I
yeah.
mean, not that, Midwest hasn't been good for us, but there are other
Right.
companies out there for pool management that we could also,
Yeah, or if we talked briefly a couple months ago about potentially running it ourselves.
Right.
And if that's something that Chris or somebody under Chris can manage, but that means hiring people too.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think it sounds kind of like, I mean, that we kind of pause for a moment with the new pool renovations or updates. I do agree, I think at this point in time, a big community center is just not in the game plan right now. Again, financially, I mean, even if we were to put some in front of the voters for that, that's a big ask as opposed to a new pool, just a simple new pool. And it's not gonna be simple, but with, you said the splash pad, zero entry, maybe a lazy river, something to that nature. I think it is good that we plan to put that on, in front of the voters come November. Give us a little bit more time, again, as long as we think Navigate can assist us in that time frame to get something in a more in front of the voters in November, see what they come back with, what that decision is, and then based on that, if all goes as we hope, then we can plan to not have a 2023 pool season because we will be building a new one to open in 2024. So.
Yeah, excellent discussion, I think. I kind of move at the pace of the direction I get. And so I think if we wanted to move quickly, I do think it's still available to us. Having heard all the discussion, I don't disagree. I think it would suit us better to wait.
yeah.
And especially knowing we should be able to have a pool season this year. So it's not like we are going to be not having a pool. I mean, there's a possibility, but as it is today, we're not asking for the community to not have a pool season 2 years in a row. We're really going to be asking most likely for one. And I think that also. Because then if we were to try to push it now, we would know for a fact we would not have a pool season this year, or definitely not a full one. And then just depending on project time leads, supplies, all that, there would be the potential of not having one in 2023 either. So,
Or it'd be a very late start.
a very, very late start, yes.
And that begs the question with the contracts with Midwest Pool, can we get the staff? Can we get the, you know,
All that,
yeah.
so. Great. Any other discussion on that?
So what direction would we need to go to be able to give, do we need to request some meeting time with the Board of Aldermen to discuss this, or what's going to be the best way for us to move forward in a smart manner from here, I guess is the question.
Obviously, our liaison's not here tonight. I would always kind of defer back to the Board of Aldermen liaison. I can obviously report to the Board of Aldermen. As far as the next steps,
Can we request maybe a special meeting with the mayor and our liaison and another Board of Aldermen or two, just to, have that discussion and get their feelings on things and, what direction they want to move in addition to direction we want to move. I mean, this is a huge, capital improvement for the city. So this is not just us speaking. We need to have, we need to make sure that whatever we decide is not going to go against the desires of the Board of Aldermen, the mayor, the other parties involved. But the same token, obviously, we're supposed to be driving it, but, we can have grand plans and they shoot it down, or we could have plans that are realistic for our current situation that they decide that they want to go grander than that. Either way, it's fine. It just, we need to have their, what their buy-off is on it.
I think in order to keep the momentum going on this and not take a huge pause, the next Board of Aldermen meeting is next week.
Yes.
So I think there needs to be discussion there based on what we've discussed tonight. So would it be best if we had one of us there to speak to the entire Board of Aldermen on our discussion tonight, since our liaison is not here?
Sure, yes, I think that'd be fine. Our meetings are recorded. We could certainly, brief Alderman Frick, and he can, watch this section of the meeting if he wishes. I think, I'm open to suggestions. If there's some desire on the part of the Board of Aldermen to move more quickly, I need to know that. I don't think that's the case. I haven't heard a lot of talk about it recently, but I really don't know. So I would tend to agree. I think it would be helpful for, someone from the board here to, at least make a brief report to the Board of Aldermen, and, where the board takes it from there is obviously up to them.
Well, I can commit to be here next Tuesday.
Okay. I have a conflict, so I could not.
I will. I will miss my other conflict, and I will be here next Tuesday to just speak to the Board of Aldermen.
Okay.
So that way it does keep the momentum going and get their feedback.
And I will advise Alderman Frick of this conversation.
Absolutely.
And, he may, or, if he wants to reach out to you, of course he could, and so on and so forth. But, sure, I think it would be helpful. It's got to be a team approach, in my opinion. I'm not going to say that next meeting, the 1st of February, is going to be kind of a drop-dead date, but if we're not moving quickly, March 1st is the first meeting in March. That, to me, that would be the drop-dead date. If we're not moving by then, we've missed August for sure.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by, them hearing next week our ideas and thoughts, then that will, again, keep that momentum going so we can ensure that it doesn't die down completely. And it gives them time to think about things too.
Do we need any kind of motion on anything, or are you just going to handle it as president?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think I will be there, guns a-blazing. All right,
We'll watch later on.
any other discussion on the pool?
Just by the next meeting, we hope to have the Midwest Pool contract. We have discussed potentially reducing the hours and/or days. We don't have anything in writing, but just kind of a heads up to you all. The end of the year is just tough. Yes, the schools are not back in operation per Missouri law until late August. However, it's very difficult to staff in that sort of mid-August period. Even if you are open, the attendance drops off. Would it make sense to potentially close even a day, one day out of the week? We don't have any of this on paper yet, and Midwest is going to provide that. So, by the next meeting, I hope to have that contract for you all to look at.
Sounds good. All right, the next under old business park staffing update.
Parking staff.
Pleased to say that our Parks Department is growing. And if you haven't met George yet, he's a great guy, working hard alongside of Chris Fowler. So now we have two employees in our Parks Department working side by side to get things done. I've got a little update on some of the things they've been focused on here in just a little bit.
And George is full-time, correct?
George is full-time.
That's what I thought.
Can he, does he have a time in his schedule personally to come to one of our next meetings to introduce himself to us? Or can we at least make that
He lives
request?
in Arnold, so.
Okay, so it's a pretty good haul for
It'd
him.
be an overtime situation, so probably not, but, what do you think, Mr. Roth?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
From an overtime situation, I would say,
I just
we'll
say,
make a point
if
of
you're in the parks and
introducing
you
ourselves
see-
to him at some point.
See some guys working in the park, go introduce
Yeah.
yourself.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay?
Yep, that will
That's
work.
fine. I didn't realize he lived that far out of town, so yes, absolutely.
All right, so park liaison report is next on the agenda, and our alderman liaison, Butch Frick, is not in attendance, so we will move on to the Director of Community Development
I'll
report.
just say that Alderman Frick did let me know this evening that he's unable to attend due to a work scheduling problem, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to tell you that some of the things that we're focused on is we're cleaning up a lot of the vegetation between the fence line and Brush Creek at City Park. The guys had started on it, bringing into some weather delays. What they've done along that stretch, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 feet, looks really good. It's not, they've thrown the brush on the other side of the fence and needs to be cleaned up. But so long as they're going to continue that all the way down to the western edge of that fence line and then wrap around the corner and continue clearing up on the western edge of the fence line. So, they're making good progress, and I think when the weather breaks here, they're going to be back to it. So they're also focused on getting some stumps ground that are there at City Park, well as some of the other park properties, to get some old stumps removed finally. Cleaning up some scrub trees at Blackburn Park now becomes one of the focuses. Thank you, guys. We'll get that done shortly. And then removing the accumulation of leaves along Blackburn Park fence on the eastern edge. It's like 2 feet deep.
Yeah.
So those will be something that we'll be focused on too. And then installing those new time locks at Liberty Field. That'll go in here in the next couple of weeks, as I shared earlier. So that's some of the things that they're focused on. And is there anything else ever that you notice in the parks that you want taken care of? Just let us know. I went around tonight to City Park and took a lot of pictures. One of the things I'll be asking for is some funding to resurface the tennis courts eventually. That needs it badly. I took pictures of almost every crack, I think.
Well, we saw even in the presentation that they did tonight, they were on the tennis court, and you could just see
rough.
the cracks. I
Yeah.
was like, oh.
Because I know
There's
that-
some upgrades that needed.
Yeah.
Right. And I know there was a comment, there's been comments by the general public, but also there was a comment in one of the previous meetings about getting at least one of the courts striped also for, not only for tennis, but for
For
pickleball.
pickleball, yeah.
That's,
That's-
obviously, we probably don't want to do it right now when the courts are in rough shape, but as soon as they are, that is on the
It's on the
list?
to-do list.
Okay.
It is. So, yeah, there's lots of opportunities. So we just can tackle one at a time,
Yep.
you know?
Sure.
But we're knocking them off.
Has, and kind of a personal preference on my part, but the Hawthorne Pond, has there been any discussions further on any kind of cleanup, clean out, what to do with that?
Okay, so you're talking about the Hawthorne
The retention pond?
Basin,
Yes,
okay? Because there's a perception in the public that that is a
correct.
pond.
Yeah, it's a
That
drain
should
basin.
be a fishing pond. And it can't be a fishing pond, according to DNR, according to conservation agents that have been out there and met with us. The reason is because of the toxins that come in off the road
Yes.
whenever it rains. There's a lot of oils and just chemicals that are not conducive to growing fish. So what you end up with is a season of fish that the little sunfish at best may get to 5, 6, 7 inches long. I was judging fishing derbies out there in the past, and that's what was pulled out. I have people tell me, "Oh, I got some massive fish out of there one time before," and well,
It's possible.
I haven't seen
I've
the
gotten
picture.
some stuff out of there that was, not huge, but I've caught bass out of there before actually, but I just know right now there's nothing in there but turtles.
no.
So
So to turn that into something that's pretty is a possibility. Something that's functional as a fishing lake is probably not. So the reason why we did the one over at Liberty Field largely is to where we can get a fishing lake. That's been something that's been shared in the past and there's a lot of excitement over. So that is a stockable lake. The other one, not so much.
right,
But
at least to
to
clean up
get
on it would be-
aeration, to get an aeration unit in there is a possibility to keep the algae down, to treat it with some chemicals, to re-edge it, to keep the algae down. That's something that has been discussed. What was it, Steve? More than a year ago, that we were talking about what could happen out there, but the funding to do it, it's expensive to do. It's not cheap. So it is something that was talked about at one time, and for whatever reason, it just died out. So we could definitely revive that
Yeah,
discussion.
this past summer, it was pretty bad. I mean, it didn't have the duckweed growing across it like it had in the last couple of years, but it had a rank smell coming off of it, and the bugs coming out of it were pretty bad. So
Okay.
I don't know what can be done on a temporary basis until something more permanent can be accomplished, but that's something that it would be great if we could take a look at some point.
I'll put it back on the burner.
Right.
Me and my neighbors appreciate it.
Anything else, Steve?
No.
All right.
I do have, I have one other question. A couple of meetings ago, there was a discussion about soccer and/or football goals in City Park around the baseball diamonds. Have those been removed now?
No, so this is one of the ones that the St. Bridget's Soccer Association, I think, uses those parks
Okay.
in the summer months. It's something that Chris Fowler and I have had recent discussions in the last few days about trying to see if we can incorporate them to use Liberty Field as well. And it's a scheduling thing, working with the Soccer Association to allow them to use those fields, because ideally, our baseball fields are baseball fields, and our soccer fields are soccer fields. So to use the baseball fields as soccer fields prohibits people who would be using them as baseball fields. And it also prohibits us to be able to prepare those fields like we really would want to. Shouldn't be a soccer goal hanging out in left field. So that's problematic. So Chris and I have started a discussion about that. I have not talked with St. Bridget's. I have not talked to the Soccer Association yet, but that would be the next step.
Yeah, and I would think with PSA not utilizing as much of Liberty Field as they have, 4 or 5 years ago, and if that's the same anticipation for this year, there's fields that are sitting empty that St. Bridget's could potentially use. PSA uses one side, St. Bridget's uses the other.
Right.
And then there would not be that conflict.
That would be ideal. So I'll reach out to the organizations.
Perfect. All right. All right, moving on. City Administrator report. The other
Okay.
Steve.
Some of you have been on the board long enough to know of the dog park recommendation from MIRMA. It's actually been one of the recommendations since 2013. And essentially, their recommendation is to separate the large dogs from the small dogs. It has been discussed by the park board before, no action was taken. This year, I'm very proud to say the city had a 99% score on our MIRMA worksheet, MIRMA rating, so to speak. It's really great. It's very good. It's a credit to many people. It's a real thing. There's some good work being done there. We would have got a perfect score.
We had the dog park.
I don't mean to beat on it, and the reason to do it is not to get a perfect MIRMA score. The reason to do it is to address what is a real liability issue, and to essentially improve our dog park and make it one that is good for large and small dogs together. So, no decisions tonight. I know it's getting late, but you will be hearing more from me there. I will definitely bring budget requests to you. I've talked to Chris Fowler. He agrees. Like any challenge, it's an opportunity to really improve that. It's just got to be done. We have to do it, and so it's one of my priority items, frankly, for the next year with the parks.
Sounds good. Well, knowing that we're, looking to do the sand volleyball, looking to,
A potential skate park.
well, yeah, but that, I'm just thinking in the community park,
Tennis
the tennis courts, rehabbing those, I'm gonna call it, that whole kind of side of the community park. I think, now is the time to definitely look at doing the dog park. So it's kind of a whole revamp of that portion of the community park. I would say too, if we reach out to the Boy Scouts. Is there an Eagle Scout that is desperately looking for a project? That was an Eagle Scout project to begin with.
I happen to know a few of the leaders on both sides, so.
So that might be something that could then help offset any cost the city would have and also help a scout in our area.
One of the things that I'd recommend there is features. So the dog park, the fence is easy. But what is inside that, the features that the dogs are, the obstacles the dogs go up and over. We only have in our dog park 3 features. There's a gazebo type structure, but the dogs only can enjoy 3 different ramps. There's a ramp and a walkboard and one other.
There was a seesaw at one point. I think that's been removed now too.
But I think it was built so long ago that those things they haven't stood the test of time. So they've been removed because of rot or decay, whatever.
Right.
So that's a project waiting to happen for some scout, or 2. Because if you divide it up, and I was out there this evening, and there was a mom and her 2 kids and 2 dogs, and they were having a good time, but there wasn't much to do. So, but small dog park, smaller features, large dog, larger features. It's waiting to happen.
And like I said, it could be a potential, especially if we do have, if there's 3 or 4 Eagle Scouts, they could take a section, potentially. I'm not exactly sure how all that works with the Eagle Scout regulations, but could it be something that multiple Eagle Scouts work together on? Or like I said, one handles the features for the large dog park, while the other's handling the fencing of the small dog, and another one's handling the features of the small dog. I have no idea what their rules and regs are, but that could be.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I think we can work with. Speaking from a scout side and Eagle Board member and all that stuff, there are definitely things that still can be done. One of the things that we can do is basically invite scouts to, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, I know you've been involved in a lot of these, is we can invite scouts to come, observe the parks and, offer, hey, we want to do
This.
The park board would like to have updated, upgraded, improved dog parks and let the scouts run with it from there, because it's got to be their project.
Right.
However, there can be, obviously, if they come to us with some ideas, then it's a lot easier. If the ideas are out there and somebody wants to run with it, great. The only thing we can't do is we can't, as a park board, direct their project for them.
Gotcha. But we could say, hey, our dog park needs updating.
Yes.
Tell us what ideas you have.
Yeah, or we have a list of things that they could choose from if they felt passionate about various things, and they can pick their project.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. All right, anything else for us, Steve?
That's it.
All righty. Moving on to miscellaneous. Does anybody have anything miscellaneous?
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Or 1 question and 1 comment.
Okay.
First one I'll address to the gentleman that presented tonight, and I hope you have the chance to catch this. The skate park being in honor of a military veteran, especially one that was unfortunately lost his life in combat. There might be opportunities to also partner with either a VFW, American Legion, a group like that, but also to be in contact with our Representative Luke DeMeyer, Blaine Luke DeMeyer. He may be able to push something through on the federal side to help with some funding or something to go with that, as well as our senators. And I would highly encourage you to get in contact with the federal representatives, but also our state representatives too, because I think that there's some opportunities there to, help bring some awareness to that, and to thank not just the gentleman, Mr. White, I'm sorry, Mr. White, for his service and the family service, but also other local veterans who may have been involved in similar incidents. Just trying to honor people and take the opportunities.
Right.
The second question
I was going to say, in relation to that, if I can just pause you for a moment, I do know that Jeffrey's mom is a Gold Star mom. And that is another organization that I think they too should potentially look maybe for some assistance or support. In addition, and I hope I get this right, I know it's the MMMF, and I believe it's the Missouri Memorial Military Foundation or something to that nature. The Whites are very involved with them as well, with their 5K down at Jefferson Barracks every year. They raise funds. They built a huge, very lovely pavilion down there, the MMMF did, but that might be another military organization that they might be able to approach as well. So hopefully if you guys are listening, or if not, we'll get this information to you. It's just another avenue for fundraising to think about.
Another item that's been on my list is, I know Interim Mayor Adams put out a challenge for organizations and groups to start preparing for the Route 66 Centennial. Obviously, between Jensen's Point, Blackburn Park, we have two major, and Adams Garden, we have three major parks right on 66. That is definitely something that we need to keep in mind as a board, that we need to be encouraging Director Myers and Chris and the parks crew to, how we can improve those, how we can get them ready to go for that centennial coming up in a couple of years. Obviously, timing and funding is a limitation, but anything we can do to help encourage that, I think would be well worth it. And then lastly, the February meeting currently scheduled for Valentine's Day on February 14th. So, and I have to actually travel out of town that day to begin with, so I would encourage a discussion on potential makeup day for the February Park Board meeting.
I would encourage that as well, as I will be out of the country.
What about the second, I'm sorry, I guess, the second Monday?
Actually,
that
the
is
14th
the
is the
second
second. The
Monday.
7th would be the.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, we could go to the 21st, of course, that's President's Day.
Now, the 7th is the
That's my
first
wife's
Monday. But that would be an opposite week of an alderman meeting. That'd be in between alderman meetings. Because
Yes.
you have the alderman meeting on the
Yeah.
1st and then the
Yeah.
15th.
I see.
I might have.
Well, that was kind of the
You might have a
intent.
problem.
Yeah, I mean,
Weeks from today.
It's also short notice.
It is. Yeah, it's 2 weeks from today. So the other option,
15th
if we did not do it on a Monday,
day.
would be
you
to
know
do.
what, we're just going to almost have to find some dates and throw them out
and,
there.
and look.
Email chain?
I will be out of town that whole week, the 14th through the 17th.
Yeah, me too.
Gotcha.
I'm out actually
So-
beginning the 11th through the 25th.
All right, 22nd, here it is.
She's going to be out on the 22nd.
No, I'll be back.
I thought you said the 25th.
No, 20th.
Anybody say the 28th yet?
I have a conflict. That's Wood Badge dinner.
But that's also the Monday before the March Alderman meeting, and I know we're trying, I think, to put this meeting in between. So unless we moved it to the 22nd, which would be a Tuesday, if that's
Yeah, it's a
possible.
planning and zoning meeting night, and right now, it's hard to say.
Okay.
If it was an available date, I think it would be fine. We
have the
might
23rd.
have some P and Z for that meeting, actually.
We might, maybe Wednesday, the 23rd. We can maybe throw
Yeah.
some dates out and let Kim give us some.
Yes, let's
What's
do
not
that.
available.
Yeah, here's what we'll do. We'll try to shoot for 22nd, 23rd, or 24th, one of those dates.
Okay.
Okay,
I
good.
prefer the Wednesday or Thursday, if
Yeah.
you don't mind.
Wednesday's best, but
Tuesdays
I
are
can make
bad.
Thursday work.
Yeah, Wednesday, or the 23rd or 24th would be the preferred days.
Wednesday is typically open, so why don't we just basically plan on that date?
Okay.
23rd.
23rd, next meeting.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about time. So, most all of the city meetings are at 7 o'clock. And there's been some complaints that I've gotten because there's the questions of consistency. And so is there any reason why 7 o'clock wouldn't work for the park board instead of 6:30? What it does is it gives staff a little more time to go home, eat, come back.
Gives me more time to go home and eat and come back, because I haven't done that yet today. I was home for 5 minutes.
I mean, we can, I would say, maybe try it for the next meeting, see if it's, the downfall is, I mean, we had several presentations, so this is a little bit different of a
Out the
scenario.
norm, Right.
I mean, we're over 2 hours into a meeting, and so if we were to start at 7, then you're talking 9:30, and I think but most of our meetings, we tend to try to keep around that hour, so if we started at 7, 8 or 8:30 would not be too bad. So let's try it for the 23rd, see how things go.
Are we normally 6:30?
We're normally 6:30,
Always, yeah.
yeah. And just see, and just, I'll be cognizant to
And
keep
and
it
I
short
will
and
as-
sweet.
I will as well in building the agenda to try to make sure that we keep it an hour and a half.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, if we keep up with our meetings too, then.
That will help as
It
well.
won't be so long.
Yeah,
Yes,
because it's been almost over 2 months since our last meeting.
correct. So if we have them on a more regular cadence, then you're absolutely correct. That helps keep the agenda down. So, all right.
So, I think that means we need a motion
To
to
say-
adjourn.
Any other miscellaneous real quick before we go put that motion in play? All righty, moving on to adjournment. Do I have a motion to
I will
adjourn?
make that motion.
I have a motion by Sam. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Kim. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you guys for a great meeting. We'll see you on the 23rd as it stands right now.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Steve and Mr.